Oh, fantastic stuff. Well, you said we want to talk about sales development. We've titled this episode Sales Development 3.0. Sales development is a concept that's been around, right? But it's never really been as focused as it has been in recent years. Tell me about that evolution.
So I love it, right? So I always kid with Kyle Porter and some of the other sales development experts. And I'm like, dude, that was my job in 1988, right? Sales development has been around forever. It's just gone through iterations. It was telemarketing, then it was inside sales, and then it was telesales, whatever name you want to give it. I love the fact that we've landed on sales development because that's really what the function's all about, developing sales.
Well, what did it look like in the 80s? You talk about it being around that far long ago. What did it look like back then? We didn't have all these tools and toys.
We had nothing. So it was like crazy, right? You'd work out of Excel, you'd sit at your desk, you'd smoke a few cigarettes at your desk. Oh yeah, I'm that old. It was just really, it was all cold calling and outbound. And back then though, people answered their phones more. Right. I think in one respect, it's so much easier now because you have all the tools and technologies. But on the other side of the coin, people are more challenging to engage with.
Well, you were prominently featured in an article that was written in Forbes by a guy by the name of Stephen J. Meyer. You showed me that article and I loved it. It's called, quote, "The Biggest Trend in Sales Today, This Thing Called Sales Development." It came out back on January the 30th in Forbes. You made some very definitive statements in there. You said that cold calling is dead. What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, if you know me, you know each statement I make is definitive because that's my personality, right? But
not shy. Okay.
What I said was, and Miles, you know that, what I actually said was it's the cold that's dead, not the calling.
Right.
Because, and by that I mean is, everyone talks about how buyers are so much more empowered, and they most assuredly are. But we're empowered too. We know more about our buyers than we ever have before. So outbound still works. You just have to do it right. So it's not cold. It's got to be personal. You've got to be human. You've got to be relevant. You've got to want to engage with your buyer. That's what's changed, I think. It's not just, smiling and dialing or pounding the phones anymore. It really is about having a meaningful conversation with your buyer.
Yeah, or back in the old days when we used to take a building downtown and work every floor of the building, call on every single door, leave a business card and a brochure, right? Sound familiar?
Well, I never did field sales, so I did it over the phone, though. Same idea.
Yeah, in some ways, maybe way harder, right? Just being on the phone, pounding the phone like that. Is it hard? This is a question that pops into my mind. Do you think it's harder to find people now who want to be on the phone and pound the phone all day long, whether the calls are warm or leads or whatever? Is it harder to find that person today?
So here's the challenge. The demand for that role now far outstrips supply.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah. So what we're finding is, years ago, people would want 2 to 3 years experience in this role. Now, if, you have a pulse, they're willing to try to train you as an SDR. One of the things I'm always saying to my client is, take your time hiring. Bad breath is not better than no breath at all, right? Sometimes sure. You're better off having an empty seat. So the challenge is there's just nobody goes to college and pops out the other end and says, put me on the phone, strap me into a headset. I just can't wait. People are ending up in the role, and they're ending up in the role with no set of expectations, and we need to create those expectations for them appropriately and then give them a learning environment so they can be successful at this job because they don't know what they're doing.
Hey, if you're just joining us, Trish Bertuzzi is my guest. By the way, you can find her all over the internet. Go to her corporate website, bridgegroupinc.com. Follow her on Twitter at Bridge Group Inc. We talk about sales development and hiring people. I got to believe that's maybe one of the hardest pieces of the whole puzzle. What are some specific things that you're advising your clients to look for, character traits or skills or inherent things that somebody really has to have in order to be successful in that role?
So the challenge is there's not one answer to that question. So Some of my clients based on the fact that their solution or technology is enterprise, it's very sophisticated, it's very, more like enterprise. You can't hire a kid out of college to help you there. But for the clients who are hiring millennials, I do say to them, what you're looking for in a person is the desire to learn, natural curiosity, the ability to prepare well, and the ability, and I think this is the big one, to have a great conversation, because that's what selling is now. It's about having a conversation. And if you have someone in the seat in front of you in the interview process and they're monosyllabic or they're not focused or they weren't prepared, that's not going to be a good hire for you.
Hey, so hang on, I gotta step back and tell Miles what monosyllabic means. He's an older guy.
I was going to say I was born in North Dakota. Is that monosyllabic?
That's one syllable, Miles.
Okay. You guys are mean to each other.
No.
I think I'm going back on mute. I'm used to it, Trish. Believe me.
Well, there you go.
No, I get your point. I mean, if they can't maintain a conversation, have some personality, perhaps have a little bit of a sense of humor, probably not going to be a good fit, right?
Right. It's not going to be a good fit because, that's their whole job. Their whole job isn't to be, with email, I keep saying, we need prospects, not pen pals, right? So it's having that conversation. Their job, at the end of the day, their job is to arouse curiosity and to close on the next step in a process. That's as far as they should be taking it. But with a crazy busy buyer, to arouse curiosity, that's a tough job nowadays. So that's what I would look for, is those conversational qualities and curiosity.
Yeah, I'm talking with Trish Bertuzzi of the Bridge Group. We're talking sales development, inside sales. You advocate separating the two functions, inside creating leads for somebody then to pursue those. And the numbers support that, don't they, Trish? Yeah,
they do. So, role specialization is definitely a trend that has emerged and been around for a long time. Having said that, I read something recently that was written by I think it was Russ Hurl from Double Dutch, where he put the roles back together again. He found that for their buyers, they didn't like that transition. So I really think that you have to figure out who your buyer is and how they want to be handled, and then develop your model, because there isn't just one you can plunk down on everyone.
One of the things that I'm reading quite a bit in the literature and the things that are on social media is there's this whole movement, Trish, that says because we have all these really cool tools now, we have the internet, and clients are entering the buying process much later on, and they know more about us, et cetera, et cetera. We really probably are looking at the death of the salesman. But I know that that's something that you passionately disagree with.
Oh, for God's sakes, it's ridiculous.
Hey, no, be serious. Answer the question.
You know what? And, I think Serious Decisions did a good job with this, because they used to get pinned with that. The buyers 64% of their way through their journey before they talk to sales. And Serious Decisions finally went, whoa, seriously, we're going to do some research. And they did that research. And their research showed that people want to engage with salespeople even earlier in the sales process than they ever did before, if the salesperson adds value.
Absolutely.
And that's the big F.
Yeah, it's a huge F. Well, my analysis is not data-driven, it's anecdotal. But what I can see from the marketplace is that people really need salespeople even more than they used to, because there's so much more data, so much more information to be disseminated and to be worked through. And it's really harder to make a decision when you've got all of that information in front of you.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's just information overload. And, the buyers feel it too. But once again, they don't want to be sold. They want to be guided and informed. I think that's the difference nowadays. To be a great salesperson, you really need to guide that buyer and provide them with information, and not come at them with a bant hammer.
Yeah.
I like that phrase. I'm going to use that more often, the bant hammer.
Hey, wait, Miles, trademark that one. Get that one on the books for us. It's on our show. It's intellectual property.
Oh, there you go.
It really is such a turnoff, though, isn't it, Trish? I mean, the traditional salesperson who walks in, plops down in your chair, and says, "Tell me about your business." I mean, those days are completely gone.
Well, so's walking in and plopping down in the chair in my world.
Yeah, exactly right. They're completely gone as well. But the analogy for you is somebody who calls cold, interrupts my day with something that has absolutely no value, and they've done no homework. I mean, those days are just over.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't they be over? So, can I rant? Because I have a new pet peeve.
Absolutely.
I have a new
we
pet
love
peeve.
rants.
Okay, I have a new pet peeve. And I just noticed there's a Twitter stream over here. I got to pay attention to that. Okay, so here's my new rant. I get these emails every day. You know, they're like from these poor little SDRs whose manager should be just put in the corner and downtime. But, you know, they send me an email and they're like, "I'd like to get in your calendar to talk about and learn more about la, 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 la." Delete, nothing interesting in it. The next day I get an email. "Hey, did you see the email I sent you yesterday?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, it sucked. So do you. Put me in touch with your manager because I got to sell you some better coaching and training." Like, and then I'll get another one yet again. "Did you see the email?" So now the new thing is send an email that has no relevancy, then keep asking the person, did they look at your non-relevant email? That's a great methodology.
Yeah, and in fact, seeing it a lot on LinkedIn of all places. I mean, is there a worse place to use that idea?
My God. LinkedIn, the worst thing they ever did was allow us to message each other, because that's just another avenue of people harassing. It's awful. It's just terrible.
Oh, in case you're just joining me live on the radio or live on Blab, it's Trish Bertuzzi, who absolutely has no opinions about anything whatsoever. It's like pulling teeth to get something from her. Hey, make sure you find her online at the Bridge Group. Let's see, I think Bridge Group Inc. Yes, at Bridge Group Inc. is Twitter. BridgeGroupInc.com is the website. But before we go to our break, I want to talk a little bit more about what's on there. You said that the most important question that people have to deal with is, how do I get the right people in front of my closers at the lowest possible cost? I mean, it's a lot of variables to be putting in play at one time. How do you answer that question?
So it's interesting because the question of lowest cost is something that I never hear people talk about anymore. So it's not that, and by the way, sales development and inside salespeople are extremely well compensated nowadays because it's such a competitive market. Actually, if you want to know how they're compensated, you can go to bridgegroupinc.com, go to our resources page, and look at our metrics and compensation reports, which you can download for free.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're awesome. Having said that, and having completely lost my train of thought, yes, Kelly, what was the question again?
How do you answer that question? You said not a lot of people talk about the lowest price, getting your people in front of the closers at the lowest price.
Yeah, so it's not about the lowest price. It's about what are you trying to accomplish? So we opened an office in San Francisco about a year ago, and I find it fascinating that the tech market out there and the business model is so different than it is on the East Coast, because what we're seeing in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley is that people are actually spending money by partnering SDRs one-to-one with selling partners to get a leg up and get more velocity sooner into their pipeline. And that is not cheap. That has nothing to do with cost of selling. That's about a land grab, and they're willing to pay for it.
Is it working?
Well, for those companies, I'm assuming it is, because they're still executing. But I think, you have to think through your strategy. So, which leads me to a beautiful segue to my book, Kelly. So I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity.
Very good.
There is not one strategy for everybody, right? So... Right. There just isn't. If there was, we'd all be HubSpot, we'd all be Salesforce.com, we'd all be gazillionaires, right? So I didn't write a book about the one strategy for sales development. I wrote something called the Sales Development Playbook, available in January on Amazon. And in it, I say, this is what you need to think about, and these are the questions you need to answer. Okay, great. Did you do that? Now, here are the options that are available to you based on your answers to those questions, because there just is no such thing as one size fits all. And you really need to think about your unique model. Do you have brand and name recognition? Where are you selling in the technology adoption life cycle? Who are your buyers? There's just like a gazillion things you need to think about. And so we're sort of like a guided decision-making process with some great tactical information in the back end. I'm rather proud of it. Did you notice?
Yeah, I did, actually. I expect to get an advanced copy so that I can help you sell more and more of those out there. So.
Oh, well, let me write that down. Yes.
Hey,
you got it.
You know that I'm here to help. The Sales Development Playbook coming from Miss Bertuzzi on January of 2016. Hey, we're going to take a time out. We're going to come back on the other side, and we're going to continue our conversation about Sales Development 3.0. We've got one of the world's foremost experts in this space right here on Biz Locker Radio. By the way, if you're on listening live, you need to find us on Blab. If you're on Blab, you can always find the podcast on iTunes. Just go look up the Business Locker Room. We're going to come back on the other side. Miles Austin will join me later in the show. By the way, we're going to do the X's and O's segment. He's got a cool new tool for us to talk about. We'll do all of that when we come back. I'm Kelly Riggs. Stay with us. All right, very good. Very good, Trish.
Awesome.
I don't even understand why you even thought that this was going to be difficult.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but it wasn't that easy to get going.
Well, no, I didn't say you weren't technically challenged. I just said you're great on the radio, and you're great live on video, too, by the way. Miles, she was all worried about video. She doesn't like the way she looks. Can you believe that? Man, if we worried about that, we would never have a show.
Yeah,
men are different.
Going, I shouldn't worry about it. If these two
men are different.
Yeah, men are different. You got that right. We're horrible. Hey, thanks for joining us on Blab, by the way. If you guys have got any questions, make sure you type them into the message bar there, and Miles will moderate some of those. Miles will be on later. We're going to talk about Todoist, TODOIST.com, and he was teasing me at the – all right, here we go. We're coming in. Hey, many thanks to John Spence for bringing us back out of the break. John Spence also wrote a great book called Awesomely Simple. He's been on the show a couple of times, and I count him as one of those guys that I read everything that he writes because the guy is brilliant. By the way, next week, Mike Weinberg will be on board, and if you're joining me on Blab, we're going to be looking at his brand new book, Sales Management Simplified. Had breakfast with Mike in St. Louis last week. This was before the Cards got eliminated. His demeanor was a lot better. I think he's in mourning right now for his Cardinals, but really excited to have him on next week. Joe Polizzi the week after that, Content Marketing Institute. Then Oren Cloth, who wrote a phenomenal book called Pitch Anything. We'll talk about that. But today, episode number 73 with Trish Bertuzzi, we're talking about Sales Development 3.0. It's all about the front end of the sales process. And we were talking before the break, Trish, about that article that was written, the biggest trend in sales today, this thing called sales development. You say it's really transformed the traditional sales process, all of the new tools and the way we do sales development now. What do you mean by that? What is really going radical?
Well, I mean, it's transforming the sales process because now you have people who are focused on engaging in the early stages of the buyer journey, right? So, I always say to my clients, and some of them love it and some of them they don't, but I always say any monkey could close a deal. If you give them a highly qualified opportunity, all they have to do is ask closing questions, right? I don't know why they make such a big deal out of closing skills and whatnot. You just ask hard questions, right? The hard part is getting them to engage with you in the first place, breaking through the noise, showing them that you're different, showing them that you're relevant, that you understand their business, their unique set of challenges. That's the hard part. So I think sales development has made the life of a salesperson pretty cush.
Oh, well, hey, listen, I'm going to put you on the spot then. Do you think the outside salesperson, the closer, should be paid less than the inside salesperson, the SDR? Okay.
So once again, I don't understand what you mean by outside but you mean the closing rep, should they be paid less? I think the answer is it depends.
Okay.
I think it depends. If you're selling a commodity product where all you have to do then is like demo to close, maybe. Or not, obviously enterprise deals are a whole different thing. I think it depends on the buying process and the decision-making process and the prospect. I can't, I don't think that's I don't think that's a one answer fits all. It's an interesting thought process, though.
It's an interesting question, I think. Yeah, just based on what you said. Well, so you've mentioned enterprise a few times. So how does the enterprise sale vary? What are your thoughts on that side of the house?
Well, I mean, it's much more complex, and I think what's happened over the past few years is that more and more sales have transformed themselves into enterprise sales because the buying committees are growing larger at lower dollar volumes. There's rarely that one guy who can make the big decision anymore. It's almost always a buying committee. So that does complicate the sales process. When you have to influence multiple decision makers in an organization, that doesn't make it so much more challenging. But I think there's something afoot, account-based marketing and account-based selling, that it's just starting to emerge. It's sort of been around forever. Like, I feel like it's been around since Jill Conrath wrote her book, Selling to Big Companies, where she talked about that. But, we always have to have a new acronym and a new thing. So the new thing is going to be account-based marketing and account-based selling. And I think it's going to be interesting to watch where that goes.
Well, I remember 20 years ago when enterprise selling, especially in the tech space, was always a team of people. You might have someone that we would call an SDR now making some initial contacts and setting some things in place, but then you would have the enterprise salesperson who worked that account, had a defined number of accounts per se. But then once it progressed to a certain point, you would have a sales engineer, you would have technical support. It seemed like you had this big team. Is that still a part of the marketplace in your experience?
Oh, absolutely. It's still absolutely in the right situation. That has not changed, and that will probably never change. It's still totally true that sometimes you need to put multiple resources on an account to accomplish what you're looking for. Yeah. Is
there still a role for an SDR in your world, you think?
Absolutely. An SDR, that's kind of an umbrella term, right? A sales development rep. So if you're going after let's talk about account-based marketing and account-based selling. The SDR's role might not be to immediately try to get the buyer on the phone. It might be to do research, to begin to understand what's going on in that account, whether they collect the information via the web or having conversations or however they collect it. In that instance, the sales development rep's role would be more of a profiler or a researcher than someone who's like, hey, can you take a meeting with my buddy,
Sure. Well, and there's clearly a huge place for that role as well, analyst or whatever you want to call them. I mean, there's clearly a lot of front end research to be done on these more complex clients.
And people are coming out with technologies to address it, like John Miller and his company Engagio. He's going to address that very situation, as are some others. So it's going to be an emerging market to watch. It's going to be interesting.
Trish Bertuzzi is my guest here on BizLocker Radio. Find us online, bizlockerradio.com. Trish, what's interesting is things evolve, new methodologies come along, and then people abuse the crap out of them. So one of the things that has been abused to death is the download my ebook and download this and download. I mean, everybody's got a magnet, right? A lead magnet and you call that in your article, you call that content spam. And I thought that was really interesting. It's not as effective as it used to be by magnitudes. What's the replacement for that?
The conversation? I don't know. What happened to the days when, we could just pick up the phone and have a conversation? Content has, don't get me wrong, I love content. Content has served my business well and has grown my business dramatically. Those web forms and getting people to have engaged has been a thing of beauty, but can be too much of it. Like, people who blog 3 times a week, you think your audience is listening to you or reading you? They are absolutely not. You are white noise. And I think what we have to sort of step back and do is say, what am I trying to accomplish with this piece? Am I putting it out there because I can, or am I putting it out there because it actually does something to educate my potential buyer and help me move them along down the path I'm trying to guide them down? I think it's time to go back where content had meaning. Remember when Twitter had meaning? I love Twitter. I just love Twitter, right? Who's snarkier than I am on Twitter? I just love to go out there with 140 characters and like launch something over the bow. And that's where I used to go. And I'm talking a year and a half ago. I used to go to Twitter to be informed. Like Miles, I used to find out about all the technologies from you. I mean, I used to go there and I'd look at my followers and I'd like, what are they reading? What are they talking about? This is so awesome. And then now it's like an echo can. It's like everyone's just retweeting and they don't even read what they're retweeting. So it has no context. And it's like 30 ways to do this and 10 ways to do this and 5 ways to do that. How about one way to shut up? Right? Enough. You know? So I'm bummed out because it used to be so good. And now I'm like, where do I go? Now I go to Core.
Well, but yeah, you know, but 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you were reading all the social media experts, right? It was, hey, those are the headlines that get read, the 10 ways and the 5 ways and the 4 ways. And then it became, you got to put a picture with it, you know, really captures people's imagination. The reality is this is a moving target. I mean, this thing is moving so fast because so many people are involved in jumping in at an ever increasing speed. I don't know. How do you stay ahead of this game?
I mean, think about it. Here's Twitter, right? So watch. I'm not there. Here I am. Can you see me? Okay, I'm gone again. I mean, Twitter, I mean, it's like, you got to be there in the moment. It's like a snapshot. So
now, how did you expect me to do that if we weren't on video, right? If you're listening on the radio or if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see her bobbing up and down on the video page there. That's good stuff. Well, you know, the reason I ask about all of those things is one of the data points that came out in Meyer's article was that the contact rate is 100 times higher if you call an inbound lead in 5 minutes versus 30 minutes. I mean, that's a gargantuan thing. And the qualification rate is much, much quicker as well. But how do I get people to call me inbound? How do I get their attention?
Well, I mean, obviously content does play a part in that. It just has to be good. Right? There's a difference between content and good content. And here's the other thing about the 5-minute rule. And I'm not going to throw it under the bus, but I think of myself as a pretty typical buyer. And if I go to a technology...
Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah, I look at you and I go, typical. Yeah. Right.
No,
okay.
but this is what I mean. This is what I mean. So if I go to someone's website and I download a white paper, I download it to read it either at night or on the weekend. 2 minutes later, my phone rings. Hi, Trish. It's John. You just downloaded our white paper. Do you have any questions? I'm like, dude, really? I haven't even opened it. I'm going to read it over the weekend. What is it about? And by the way, do you know I'm already a customer of yours? Or do you know I'm a partner? No, you don't, because you were rushing to call me so fast you know nothing about me.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Do I have a question for you? Yeah. Are you stalking me on Facebook already?
I know.
Right?
I know.
It's instantaneous. Well, folks, this thing we call sales development is changing rapidly, as you can tell from our conversation with Trish. Sales Development 3.0, we call it. Trish has got a brand new book coming out in January of 2016. I can assure you we'll talk more about it, probably get her back on video now that she's a regular veteran. It's called The Sales Development Playbook, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I'm looking forward to it, Trish. Hey, in all seriousness, thank you so much for taking some of your time.
My pleasure.
I know you've got multiple offices and all that. Thanks for being a part of BizLocker Radio.
My pleasure.
Great to have her on board. Hey, we're going to take our final time out, and we'll come back on the other side, and I'll have a conversation with my good buddy Miles Austin. He'll join me from Seattle. I think he's in mourning again, but I don't know if I'm going to talk about football or not. We'll have to wait and see how he reacts. No, he's giving me the no. Hey, make sure you find us on Blab, folks. This is where it's really happening. A lot of good things you can do there. You can tweet out of it. You can send messages. And, of course, if you're listening on the podcast, it's always a great place to rehash the fabulous content. Many thanks to Trish Bertuzzi for joining us right here on the show. We'll come back on the other side. You're listening to BizLocker Radio. I'm Kelly Riggs. Stay with us.
All right. Am I done?
You are done, madam.
Great. Thank you.
Hey, I'll follow up with you so much. Thanks so much for joining us.
It was fun after all that.
I told you it would be.
Oh, all right. You big show off. Bye, Miles.
Bye.
Enjoyed it, Trish.
All right. Okay. I'll be right back. And I am back.
While Kelly's gone, we're going to talk about hair care products for.
Going to run out of juice.
And while Kelly's gone, we're going to be talking about a new line of hair care products for.
Oh man!
Oh, sorry, he's back.
Yeah, you remember that whole idea about you being a co-host?
Yeah, I know.
Never mind.
Yeah. I had a couple questions I was going to ask Trish, man, but thank you for talking so much.
Hey, welcome back to BizLocker Radio. Thanks to Michael Circuit, our engineer on the other side of the glass, working me through all the technical issues and making it sound like we know what we're doing, which clearly we don't. And if it wasn't for Miles Austin on the Blab side, we'd really be lost because I am clearly not the technical talent on this whole operation. But thanks for joining us. BizLockerRadio.com is where you'll find all the information about the show, past guests, some great interviews. Oh, my goodness. Since the summer, we've been loaded up on the sales side. In fact, Mike Weinberg will be with me next week. We'll be talking about his brand new book, Sales Management Simplified. You know anybody in the sales world, you absolutely do not want to miss that interview with Mike Weinberg. Week after that is Joe Polizzi. You've had him on the show as well, Content Marketing Institute. We're going to talk about some of those things that Trish alluded to. We'll talk about content and the way you use it right and really advance that whole idea of Sales Development 3.0. The week after that, Oren Clough. You want to set your sundial by that one. I would guarantee you that is going to be a fabulous interview. Had him on once before. His book, Pitch Anything, must read in my book. But we welcome in my good friend from Seattle. He's Miles Austin. And if you've joined us on Blab, you'll see him there in his warehouse studio that he built just specifically for the business locker room. Miles, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Kelly. Thanks for asking. I appreciate it. I always enjoy listening to Trish. I made a comment in the stream there that she is a master of those quotable little tweets that she has, those little short little things. I learned several years ago from her. One that I've used for years is that I give her credit for coining was a fool with the tool is still a fool.
Wow. Hang on. I may have to use that one later.
Yeah. Well, man. I'm sure they can apply that to me from time to time. I'm just a fool, period. I don't even need a tool.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't matter if I have one or not. Hey, if you're joining us for the first time, Miles Austin is on the show all the time. We do a segment called the X's and O's segment right here in the business locker room. It's like wheeling in the chalkboard, drawing up a play on the board, a way for us to make some adjustments or get better at what we're doing, attack our competition a little more effectively, however you want to look at it. And you can find him online at fillthefunnel.com. Certainly you want to add him to the Twitter list if he's not already there. He's a guy that posts great stuff and doesn't waste your time with a bunch of nonsense at Miles Austin. Okay, so this week we're talking about a brand new tool called Todoist. Tell us about it.
Todoist is simply a to-do list that's available anywhere, anytime, on virtually every platform you can imagine, that you can also share with people that are important to you in your life.
Okay, don't run off, people. If you're listening, we're going to get to why this one is different because I can hear headphones being slammed on the ground right now. A to-do list, really? Like I don't have enough of those around, but you don't come to these without good intent. So tell me about this one.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think exactly what you just said, Kelly, is the reason why this is a great product to consider and a great tool. All of us have to-do lists. I've got about 8 or 9 of them, very honestly, before I started using it. As you know, I'm a big fan of my little moleskin notebook.
Right.
I have my iPhone. I've got my tablet. I've got my laptop. I've got my desk. If you could see it, it's a disaster. I've got lists and sticky notes and things everywhere. That is exactly why something like Todoist is such a valuable, powerful tool. You need to have a list, no question, we all do. But let's get them all centralized. So I've got one list. One of the things, tell me if you've seen this, Kelly, I find many times when I'll find a list that maybe I had stuck on my dashboard a week ago, I might have gotten all those things done. But there was one I forgot because it was out of sight, out of mind, because I maybe was traveling for a week.
Right. Absolutely. It happens all the time. I don't care what tool you're using. If it's not visible, it's not worth anything.
Absolutely. And that's really the power because of what they've built. It's similar to a lot of the tools you found for me. I really favorite tools that are multi-platform, and that's really one of the big advantages. So not only is it available, I think there's, I don't know, 10 or 15 different platforms it's on, but you literally have everything from inboxes and to-do lists on your phone to a desk and a notebook and everything else. I get voicemails from people giving me things to do, right? And honestly, I don't know about you, Kelly, but my voicemails are usually number 72 on my list of things I'm going to go back and review. So unless I take that to do in that voicemail and add it somewhere in writing, in this case now to Todoist, I probably won't get it done. And now I've disappointed a client, a customer, or even a family member or a friend. And that's just not something I try to do. It's part of what we try and we strive to be better at every day.
Yeah, I'm looking at online at Todoist, Todoist.com. You mentioned the platforms, web, Android, iOS, OS X, Windows, Chrome, Firefox, email. I mean, they got it all covered, right? And so what you're telling me is if I get this list started, it's going to be everywhere and it's going to be in front of my face.
It is. And the other nice thing is, and it's not, we just had a conversation with Trish a little bit about all these emails and everything coming in. I get one email a day based on my settings that said, these are the things that are on your list today, right? And that are scheduled for today. And by the way, and these are the 4 things you didn't do yesterday that were due yesterday. So it's just a simple, clean reminder. One of the design principles of Todoist is a very distraction-free environment. There's not a lot of bells and whistles. There's not a lot of cool graphics and twirling gizmos. It's clean, it's simple, and that's one of the things I like about it. It's very much like having a blank page every day or a whiteboard to write these things on. It just follows you through and helps you manage. Because again, I don't know about you, but one of my biggest challenges over the years is I'll forget to do something. I think, okay, I got them all done, but I forgot about the one in the dashboard or the one in my on my desk, on my laptop, or on my monitor. I stuck a sticky note on, and I really feel bad about those because if I committed to it, I want to do it, and I'm not able to do it because I simply forgot it was there.
Well, this is episode number 73 of BizLocker Radio, and I remember when we started well over a year and a half ago, one of the first tools that we talked about was Evernote, and Evernote was, again, kind of like this. Everybody's got something they keep notes on or whatever, and I was that guy. I had tried Evernote, didn't stick. Now I am a huge, huge Evernote fan, and I do a lot of my critical things to do on Evernote, but what I don't have is something that emails me and says, hey, knucklehead, you didn't do these yesterday. Here's what you've got scheduled today, and puts it right in front of me. I mean, that alone may be one of the really terrific features of this whole product.
Absolutely, Kelly. And I think, I'm a big fan as well of Evernote, but for me, I use it more for links and documentation. I was writing a post this morning for the folks over at TechSmith, and I was trying to remember there were 3 studies about, how we remember more and we retain more information based on visual. If what we hear is 10%, what we see is 40%, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, now, where are those? And I was able to go back to Evernote and find the links to those pieces. So I use Evernote more as a depository for my research and the important things I want to go back to. It's kind of my memory for things I've already gotten done or read, where Todoist is what I want to get to do, not what I've already done in the past.
Right. And yeah, absolutely it does. And I can see me making the changeover. I'll probably be a big Todoist guy in the next few weeks. Miles Austin joins me, fillthefunnel.com, and it seems like since I met him and we started doing this show, I have about 50 new tools that I use on a regular basis. Now, in truth, Miles, we've probably done in 73 shows, you've probably introduced us to 40 or 50 tools, and we did a lot of work with video back in the summer. But so many of these tools have made a tremendous difference, I know, in my productivity and my ability to stay on top of things, I see this as one of those critical tools that can do that. And I would really hate for people to have that knee-jerk reaction like, oh, to-do list. I mean, I've got 14 things I can do that with.
Absolutely, Kelly. Absolutely so. And I think, we're always learning. There's a lot more to come. The neat thing about what I do is I've got, for every tool you and I talk about on the air, I've got 5 or 10 behind it. I just can't get to them all to do on a show like this. But the volume is just amazing because people are starting finally to understand, embrace them for the things you need to get better at. Don't just play with them as toys. They are really, as they're called, tools.
Absolutely. Todoist, TODOIST.com. Just looking at the feature list here, you can collaborate and share and collaborate. So some tools do that. That's fine. They have recurring dates that you can have repeating due dates. You've got sub-projects and notifications, real-time data synchronization, multiple priorities. You can visualize your productivity. I can't even wait to look and see what that's about. Comments, reminders. I mean, there's all kinds of things that are going on here. And by the way, Miles, did we mention, you can get started for free.
Absolutely. In fact, very frankly, that's all I'm using is free. So,
we're a fan of free, aren't we?
Absolutely. And you know what? The truth is, a lot of these tools, very honestly, as you know, they're either free for a month or there's an entry-level plan that's free. In most cases, I'll move up as I get comfortable with it. Not always, because sometimes the tool just doesn't fit the way I work. But if it does, I'm able then to move over, and I think it makes a big difference.
Hey, let's shift gears just a little bit and revisit a little bit of what Trish was talking about in terms of sales development, because clearly that's a world that you work in. You know a lot about it. She was talking about content spam, and I could kind of see your head. What are your thoughts there on content spam?
Well, you know what? I think it's a really hot topic. I'm going to type something in here really quick into the column on the right for all of us. I'm doing a blab next Monday before this show. I'm doing it at 11 o'clock Central Time with a guy that I've learned tons of marketing and with over the years, John Jantz from Duct Tape Marketing. And when I heard Trish talking, there's the link to the site, or to the blab. But what John's done kind of syncs quite a bit with what Trish was saying about all this there's so much of this lead magnet stuff out there.
Right.
What John has done is said, hold on, time out. What I'm going to do is not keep giving you these sign up for my list and get this ebook and sign up for my list and get this paper and sign up for my list for this. He's now taken all of his content that is available for free anyway, and put it behind a gate, if you will. And he calls it his community. So his content community is something that I was really intrigued. He just did this within the last week. And I reached out, I said, John, we got to talk about this because I've been struggling with it. I know a lot of the people that I interact and I coach are struggling with. And I said, so we tied a little conversation about, well, what's it like? What do you think of what's, and I said, you know what, time out. Let's just go get on a blab and let me just kind of prep you a little bit. And let me just let you tell our audience what's going on with this topic. So in the future, actually now on the Duct Tape Marketing site, you go to it, you sign up once to get into his content community. And now he has one list of someone that's engaged and has an interest in all the things that he does in marketing. And it's all in there. So you go into it almost more as a member, if you will. You're part of that quote community. And I really think what the listeners are going to hear is the community word is the key part there, because there's forums to communicate and ask questions of each other, etc. But rather than saying, hey, I got a new book a new ebook. I just finished a new ebook. I'm going to download. You can download it and sign up, right? No more. You just join his content community. You get in, you get access. You now have a password and an ID. And all the other people that are in that same content community have access to everything that he's publishing out there that's for free.
Wow. So one gate, one list, one name. And I assume he probably still does something like a weekly or monthly newsletter or something to keep people up to date. Oh, yeah. But it just makes all of that a lot easier and cleaner. Every blog post doesn't contain a sign up now, or if it does, it probably just says join our community, right?
Yeah, if you want more information about this or anything else that we talk about here at XYZ, just join here. You get access to everything that we have out there available, all of it in a library, and anything I'm adding in the future, you're going to have access automatically. What it does then, it kind of moves some of the interaction and that responsibility to the reader, right? Yes. Now I think, okay, I need to find what's the current thinking on these pop-ups, right? On these pop-ups on my website. Let me go see what John has to say about it, if he has any white papers or any ebooks about it.
Right.
And now there's a community where you can ask each other, and that's the part I'm really intrigued with, because we've all seen Trish hit it a little bit with LinkedIn and all the different challenges there, and the nightmare that has turned into LinkedIn groups and the challenges there. Well, how about if everyone that is in this community has an interest in my case, with tools? That's all. I'm here for one reason. I want to learn about tools, Miles, and everything that I put out there is about tools. What a great place to hang out, whether I'm online or not.
And you bringing it into your own community and not a part of some monolithic community like LinkedIn. Great stuff. Hey, make sure you join Miles Austin. It's next Monday, 11 o'clock. Is that Pacific time?
No, 11 o'clock Central time.
11 o'clock Central, and he'll interview John Jantz of Duct Tape Marketing. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Number 73 in the can, Sales Development 3.0. It's BizLocker Radio. Special thanks to Michael Sergett. Really appreciate all of his help on the other side. Thanks to Trish Bertuzzi for joining us and making it a great show. Miles is at fillthefunnel.com. He'll be back next week on the X's No segment, and we'll have a conversation with Mike Weinberg, his brand new book, Sales Management Simplified. Look forward to doing it. Find us at bizlockerradio.com. Follow me. I'm your host, Kelly Riggs, at Kelly Riggs on Twitter. We'll see you next time.
Perfect.